Uh, Looks like I'm alive. Well, that's always a good start. Oop, just realised the camera's off. Such is life. Let's see if that comes up. Oh, yep, there we are. Looking ugly. Fantastic. Very quiet around here, John. I get to check out my stuff that arrived today. It seems like I got the very large ones of these. I just didn't want the super small, but I also, yeah, they kind of went a bit bigger than I thought. Actually, they'll probably work out better. It looks like those little nozzles won't choke up quite as quickly. That's good. This is the black version of it. As far as I know, T7000 and B7000 are essentially the same thing, just this one's black. Anyway. I won't go anywhere near using the full tube of these. I'll barely use that much before it goes off. But I do need to use it every now and then. Yeah. I got these first thing this morning, which is a good 12 hours ago, and I haven't had a chance to actually have a look at anything. Let's see, this is my main board that I'm going to be using for replace my current HP micro server. No. My RAM's not in here. Okay. I ordered 8 gigs of RAM with it and it's not there. Must be coming in another order. Well, at least the nice thing about this is they've got 4 SSD slots on them, so that's good. And it's got downside is it doesn't have any built-in serial ports like on the back, but that's okay. It's got all the display ports. I could have swapped the PS2s for serial, that would have been nice for me. Unfortunately, no NVMe or anything support, so yeah, everything's going to have to come off the SATA. Doesn't matter. It'll make a good replacement for the existing ones I've got. Because they're starting to get a little old. Like, this is the 5040. I've got J1800s, which are seriously ancient now. I guess I'll just have to wait till I get till I get the memory for it. I do like those little boards. They're very handy. Okay, I think I need to give the bench a bit of a wipe down. Hey Keith, in 10 minutes, I had the dumb res. The slot there, that M2 looking thing, that was for Wi-Fi, I believe. I don't believe it's drive. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can put a drive in a Wi-Fi M2 slot. Can you? Can you? Yeah, it says M2 Wi-Fi. So it's okay. It's not a high performance system. It's just going to be running like a pair of 2 terabyte REDs and then a boot drive, and that's it. So what's the problem with this? We don't know. This is another one that turned up with no actual definition of what's wrong with it, so because of that, I just have to pull it apart and find out. That said, being a 2337, yeah, you know what, I actually don't know what it could be in this case. The alarm will go off shortly, and that's for me to go check on Milo. I've closed up the house early tonight, but he kicked up a stink, so we let him out, but we've got to check on him every 15 minutes. Oh boy. Oh boy indeed. This looks pristine. That's a concern. There's one fingerprint here, and that's it. Everything else looks perfect. Cause for much concern. Miles, that is true, yes. Although a really simple description would be useful occasionally. But given a choice, yeah, you're right. I'll take a no description over a simple description. Sorry, over a overly wordy essay. I did have one customer, and he sent the longest essay on what was wrong with this machine that he sent. And the sad thing is, it may have actually been beneficial, but it was so long that it was like, I'm just not going to read this. Like, there is a fine balance with getting the gist described, and then the rest, just leave it up to the technician to find out. Mind you, it is a bit of a red flag when you do receive those kind of essays. As a general rule, if I get one of those, I typically now box it back up and say, I'm sorry, I couldn't fix that. Because anyone who writes that degree of an essay for a fault description is probably going to question you on absolutely anything and everything, and going to be pedantic to the point of pain. Yeah, it's not to say, these people have a right to have their machines fixed as well, but it's just not for me. Like I said, my experience tells me that is a red flag. There is nothing. So I can only hope in this case that we've got something like a shorted cap. Hopefully a little easier to find than the one last night. Last night's was very lucky that we even found that. Very lucky. Okay, why is my switcher? Oh, I just realized I have not got anything running. And strangely, I'm dropping a lot of frames. A lot more than I should be. That is not the right job code. Alright, let's go. Let's see if we can... I'm just gonna go check on Mo and I'll be back. You wanna come in? Good boy. Oh, that was lucky. He was right at the door. It was like, yeah, I got my 15 minutes now, I'm coming in. Okay, let's have a look. With a pristine board like this, we've either had something like a power surge come through and damage something, or we've had a cap just spontaneously drop its guts. Something like that. Could also be the battery just failing. They do that. So yeah, this is the A20 2016 board. Wow, this is quite pristine. Man, it's warm in here. It's been particularly hot and humid the last couple of days. Which is funny considering it's autumn now. Nothing? Okay, if we're getting absolutely nothing like we're showing now, I'm going to double check though. I'll try another connector. If we get absolutely nothing at all, it's usually a problem with the CC lines, like CC1, CC2. Okay, it was just a shitty adapter. Instead, what we got is, looks like we got a steady 400, so that's not a good sign. On the other hand, it could be a good sign. It might be something just simply getting warm, so we're going to cheat, get the gym cam. Come here, gym cam. Let's hope you got some charge left in you, because I forgot to charge you last night. Okay, there's something up there. Ah, geez, not that. Crap. That's not good at all. Hey there, floor lamp. Yep. No good at all. When that gets hot, it's a bad sign. Okay, we have to take the heatsink off. Maybe if we're lucky, there's a cap on that side that's having a bad day. That chances have dropped dramatically now. Hey, Christos. If I'm supremely lucky, it might be the 3v8 reg chip, but nah, I have my doubts. I'll just bring out the board view and schematic for you all to blindly look at. And go, oh yeah, we totally don't see what you're talking about. Okay, so this area here was getting hot, Q5800. And yeah, so that's our 3v8. 3v8's kind of like a major needed rail. And unfortunately, a lot of the time when I've had 3v8 MOSFET like that glowing, it's a bit bad on the outcome. What scope camera am I using? Unfortunately, the one I'm using at the moment, we can't get them anymore, which is really annoying. But the it's a 4K, 60 frames per second. Is that a... Yeah. Look at that. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. That there concerns me. Oh, we're lucky. Whew. Very lucky. It ended up that was just a dreg of something. But plenty of times, or at least I hope it was, plenty of times you get a little dimple like that in your PMIC and it's something dead. The big problem I find with scope cameras is no sooner do you find one that you like or works out, they stop producing it, so you can't advise anyone else to get that same one. So sorry. That is a seriously serious short, that is. Very heavy short. Okay, start looking at what our 3v8 lines have got for us. The lighting also is quite helpful. Okay, so as you can see, 3v8 goes to basically everywhere and everything, which makes it a little bit tricky to track down what is actually faulty. Hey there, Warren. Now, given how aggressively hard this short is, I'm hoping it might be a cap, but at the same time, it could just as easily be an internal board short. Is that a crack on that cap, or is it just a... looks more like a scratch. And unfortunately, even though that is an aggressively hard short, it doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of how visual that cap will be. That cap right in the middle there kind of looks maybe suspicious. See how it's got a bit of a mark on it there? Yeah, Miles, that's how it goes. It's like whenever I find something like that that I like, I immediately order a whole bunch of them that I think, okay, I need this to last me for the next 10 years. Well, what do you reckon, folks? Reckon that could be it? Depends on the board. These usually have, I think, 7 to 12 layers. I'm kind of thinking it might be that. let's see. It is on the... It's this one here, C7700. So yeah, I'm going to take a chance. I mean, it's certainly... Well, only one way to find out, eh? Bum, 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 bum. I'm going to do a no flux removal. Can be a little tricky getting them off this section because we've got a bunch of hefty parts on the other side. There we go. Yours is going to be not this one. Oh no, that's definitely got to be it. Interesting how once you change the angle on it, that really shows up. It's as bright as I can get, sorry folks. Yeah, it's an impressive crack. But look at that, as soon as you flip it face down, face up, you can barely notice it, but as soon as you rotate it, it becomes blatantly obvious. That's why it's a good idea if you can't initially find a cracked cap or something like that on the board as you're looking over it flat like this, you pick the board up and put it at an angle and start scanning the board again, and yeah, this sort of thing occasionally pops up. Of course, we've got to see whether that actually has fixed it or not. It's not to say there can't be a second one on there. But fingers crossed it was the only one, and it looks like that is the case. Excellent. Now, what value are you? It's a 10 microfarad 63402. So it's a pretty standard, and I'm trying to decide whether I leave it off or not. So as you can see, it's this one here, and there's a fair number of chunky caps on that rail. And then you got these fellows over here. Yeah, what are they? They're 150. So I think realistically we could probably leave that off. The main reason being is me putting it back on. Like I said, it's right under this PMIC. I don't really want to be going and stirring this board up more than I have to. And dropping one 10 microfarad off is well within the range of tolerance. In my opinion. Might be able to actually also just stick that straight back on with the thermals, and maybe not. Well, we're certainly going to test it. Yeah, that was a lucky find. Very lucky find. Like I said, doesn't mean that it's fixed yet, because it's always possible that while that cap was dying, it took out other things, or the sudden current demands caused other things to get damaged. But we'll see. Yeah, we got our 20 volts, so that's good. Stick it back in the chassis and see how we go. This might be one of the cleanest jobs I've ever done, if that works out. Not a single drop of fluxy snot. Of course, these are the sort of jobs that attract people into thinking, oh my god, that's so easy, that's dead easy money, I can make so much money if I start offering that service. I know how to look for those sort of things and pop them off. And then you end up with a dozen Lewis Rossmans popping up everywhere. Oh, just kidding. Ach, niemand. Yeah, the thermal paste I might come back to. I'll have a check. It's very fresh thermal paste, so it's probably going to form itself back up. But we'll see. First, I just want to make sure it actually works. Kind of the most important thing. Oh, HPs. Oh, geez, man. Well, to be honest, most cheap consumer laptops are absolute hell. The professional, the pro, the high-end gear, the stuff that they sell for $1,500 plus. That's where you finally get some sort of sanity in their assembly designs, but certainly the 400, 300 stuff. Was that a bomb? Yes, it was. Okay, we're alive. Excellent. I think we'll take that win. Yeah. I better mark that down. What was that? C7700. Schematics, job. Yeah, well done. Then I just like generate a summary, copy paste that to my other job system, and I'll be all good. And that is charging as well. I see we've got 2.3 amps. Put that off somewhere so I can deal with the finalization of that later. Okay, what else we got here? $2141 A2O 1700 board. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. In what situation were you have to use Open Board View instead of Flex Board View? Considering that you do have a license, I think, don't you? Pretty sure you do. And use the cat. almost there for the new Flexboard View release, version 5. The software itself is pretty much ready to go. What's holding me up is I'm having to build a whole new, basically a whole new website for it. Because the licensing system will be all very different. The way that you download be very different. It's different. Now when you want to download a copy, it will generate a copy just for you. So every copy that gets made is going to be a unique package. Just makes it easy. And the Windows binary is assigned, the macOS binary is assigned. The Linux binaries can't be signed because no one's around to actually be a certificate authority for Linux as such. Okay, what have we got? Okay, this is indeed a 1700 board. It looks pretty clean, but I think it has been brushed out or something. I can see some dust up here. So we probably do have a VREG issue on this one. Hey, yay. Evening. Oh, Warren, you ran at your desk. I'm surprised you haven't just copied had multiple copies. You can do that legally with my licensing. You can have a copy at work, a copy at home, so long as you're not running 2 copies concurrently. If you and a worker are both using Flexboard View at the same time, then that would be a license violation. And then the FBI will come kicking your door in. Even if you're not in America. Noosacat, that's the theory, yeah. I mean, realistically, everything's going to get pirated. I mean, it'll get pirated. I don't doubt that one bit. I'm under no illusion of the fact that it will. But I'm kind of hoping at least it will stop or slow down casual pirating. Quick question. M1 Pros, is there adhesive holding the SD card reader to the chassis? Trying to remove the board from the screws, but no, there isn't, but it is a colossal pain in the ass to get it out. So yeah, you basically have to end up, tilting, I think it's this side, and then slip the board out. Kind of like with the 1502s where you have to tilt them in. But yeah, it's a pain in the backside. As far as I know, there's no tape. I don't recall there being any tape. It's just in terms of tolerances of gaps and things like that, it's extremely tight. Okay, these 1700s do... Oh shit, damn it, that was bad. I didn't restrain the retainer plate when I was unscrewing it, so it swung around. It's not too much of a problem on MacBooks, but you try that sort of stuff on a iPhone. Oh, someone's been here. Check this out. This is why you need a microscope when you do this stuff. Or good eyes. Either that or this is an Apple botch-up job. But yeah, this is why I have a camera for my work, so that you can record this kind of stuff. You know, look at that damage that wasn't caused by me. Oh, Miles, I totally understand why you wouldn't want to be pushing your luck. I mean, those are bloody expensive machines. I think it took me a good half hour to get my first one out. And it still takes me... It's still definitely a board or a machine that I am very slow to work on. Hi there, Rodrigo. Those machines make the 1700 seem, this board here, seem like a pleasant walk in the park. And I don't know whether Apple is playing a joke on us or what, but the implementation of the multiple ports and everything like that is a such a I wouldn't say mess. I mean, it's just such an overhead on the board design that it makes me regret ever wanting anything more than USB-C ports now. It's like just go back to USB-C, please. You know, just nothing but USB-C, because you guys have made this new incarnation an absolute horrible, horrible beast. Trady, I gotta try and cover myself for these sort of things. I guess you could say a lot of the time when there's a policy in a business, as you would know, it's usually there because somebody got their backside fried over it, even if it wasn't their fault. And so it's like, right, that's it. From here on, we're going to make sure we do this and this and this to prevent that ever happening again, because there's no way I want to go through that again. And hiding those, oh yeah, under those liquid damage, yeah, I know. Like I said, it makes this board feel like a pleasant experience. It's like dating someone new and realizing, oh god, as bad as my ex was, I'll take my ex back, please. Because yeah, believe me, the 1700 is, it's not a pleasant machine to be working on. Yeah, it's got its own little quirks and tricks and annoyances, like the fact that you have to sort of push the board back to get it out, and like this. Yeah, and you have horrible little noises like that. Yeah. And yet, it's still nicer than the Pros. Okay, I think we've got a short on the VREGs down here, and it's on the NAND side, unfortunately, but I'm suspecting that's what's happened. You can sort of just see the telltale faded look of the caps. Yep, there we go. Like, so I'm pretty blind these days without my glasses, but I can still spot that discoloration. Your watch is going to be not shorted. 450, that's not shorted. What about PP bus? Oh, wait, what the hell's this? That's bad news. Let's hope that that is simply just some junk on the board and not a failure of the NAND. Please be junk. Please be junk. Junk, please be. Yeah, you are not looking like junk. You are looking like a yeah, that's a failure. Failure. That NAND cooked itself, and I would say the VREG was probably responsible. Oh, there we go. There it is. There's our cap. Now that's a 0.9 volt rail, I think, this one, and it's really gone to town. I think it's even started to carbonize. So this one may not be repairable. So try, you're this one here. Oh, actually, that's PP bus. Yeah. Interesting. Why isn't PP bus showing as shorted then? There's definitely a lot of corrosion going on here. I need my toothbrush. Let's see, get back to the microscope. But yeah, because like I mean, if PP bus shorts, okay, it's not great, but it shouldn't touch the NANDs. If the NAND shorts on the NAND side, it's also not great. It's a little riskier because depending on how that short progressed, it may have damaged the NAND. I'm fairly sure that's a pretty much cooked NAND. I'm just going to check the other side of the board. To be honest, I mean, that's really, really cooked. I'm sort of hoping it was just some sort of surface defect, but eh. And I mean, the NAND rails seem okay, but geez, tricky. Warren, I've got to make it definitive though. Okay, yeah, so that there's definitely a culprit. We'll pop that off. Trying to think which side's... trying to think whether I can get away with doing a JJ removal. There we go, JJ removal. People wondering what a JJ removal is. It stands for Jessa Jones. To be fair, she flicks them off. I can't do that with these size caps. I've got to grab them with those pliers and just shear them off. Okay, so that short is eliminated. Now what I'm going to do is, since that NAND is visibly damaged, I am going to... So those rails are good there. Those rails are good there. I'm going to take a very faint hope that that damage that we can see there was actually just caused by liquid corrosion, something landing on the NAND and just gnawing away at it, but not actually the NAND erupting from the inside. Yeah. And it's this, oh man, this is definitely a data recovery job only, because there's so many other bits of corrosion around here that I can be guaranteed I'm going to miss something. And yeah, if the person just continues on as if nothing went wrong, as if all was good and dandy, then they're going to get caught out later. So it's definitely going to be a case of, I'll send this back and say, look, if we can get it working, that is. I'll say, yeah, look at these. It's everywhere. This stuff is everywhere, whatever it is. I'll say, get your data off, use it if you want to, but there are so many little crappy bits of corrosion around the place that sooner or later one of them is going to come through again. And you're going to regret it. Yeah, the flick method is good for small stuff, but when you get up to the 603s and all that, what you'll mostly do if you try a flick method is you'll just tear up the trace. So that's why I use those pliers, and it lets me get a proper force onto it, and also I evaluate the traces around that it's sitting on. Like if I feel like, okay, we've got one that's definitely on the ground plane, good and solid, and if the other one is also a fairly solid trace, then I'll use the pliers if it suits the situation. Now the reason why I went for it here is because we're right next to the NAND, and obviously you don't want too much heat getting here. So the risk evaluation came out and said, well, it's going to be easier for us to just grab that and get it off. I'm wondering what that third one there is, and that's a 0.9 cap. Just see if I can clean that up and have a look what it looks like. Okay, it's a little dirty, but it's not looking like it's trouble. I also want to check this side. This side looks a lot cleaner, but just because it looks clean doesn't mean it is clean. Remember last night we had that one where it was dirty underneath. So we've got to check our resistances. 470 is good, that's an inside. That was that was G3 hot, but because we had it reversed relative to the previous time, it had to energize back up. Alright, I actually think we can test this one. I said we don't know if that NAND has actually crapped its pants or whether it was just a bit of a just a bit of dregs. Board heater and hot tweezers, oh hell no, no. Some people are fine with that, I am not a fan of them. It depends on this, like for iPhones, yeah I can do that. I can see it, but okay, we've got 20 volts. We actually might have a chance here. And like I said, I would tell this person, I need your password, or if they're willing to go for it, get them to give us the password, and then that way we can make just a carbon copy of the data, and then ship it to them. So at least if anything happens when it gets to the destination, there's already a fail-safe copy. So I mean, obviously, ideally, you want to do a time machine backup. Something that's a little more comprehensive. Carbon copy is good, but time machine is that little bit better because you can just restore it to a new machine. Okay. Alright. I've said this before, but if you are working on the 1700s, the easiest way to get the logic board back in is to grab yourself a piece of tape. Doesn't matter what it is, masking tape or electrical tape, whatever. My preference is masking tape. And you just pin these leads back. Okay, now with those pinned back, you've actually got a chance of getting the board in before you go insane. Jim, is carbon copy available on Windows? I don't know. I've never tried it on Windows myself. I have in the past bought quite a few different Windows backup products, but I've never found anything really that great. Because ideally, you just want to go, I don't care about the space requirements, just back up everything I need. And I want to be able to just one click, everything's backed up. Excellent, thank you. I guess Norton Ghost, that sort of thing. That was always good. Okay, so there you go. You can see it was a little bit of a trick. I sometimes tape this keyboard connector back as well. But overall, it wasn't the nightmare that 1700s usually are when you try to put them back in. Oh, really? Apple recommend? Where'd you see that? Surprised Apple mentioned anything about taking or putting a logic board back in. Did you break into some Apple repair store or something? Can't imagine the Genius Bar would have that information. Yeah, Captain tape would work fine. I prefer to use masking tape simply because you can tear it. I'm surprised they don't have a $5,000 jig that you stick on the fan that holds the cables for you. I mean, that would be a very Apple thing to do. Hey, McGregor. And Thomas as well. So we still don't know if this is actually going to work because there is that defect on the NAND. And unfortunately with these machines, if one NAND is down, then you've lost all your data anyway. I'm hoping, like I said, it's just going to be some external corrosion and the damage is purely superficial as opposed to internally erupting, whereby the damage will not be superficial. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know what could have caused that damage on that NAND. We're going to find out soon which way it's going to go. But yeah, I'll definitely be calling up the shop that sent this and said, look, it's a precarious situation. It's a 1700. They're not known for being very forgiving. Can we do a backup before I send it to you? No, I don't like that. Oh! Holy shit, we got a bong. We've got a freaking Apple logo. Holy crap. What is this, like the luckiest night of my life? You are all here to witness this. Tonight, the luckiest night in my life. 2 machines, 2 shorted caps, 2 knockoffs, 2 wins. Wow. 98% battery. Alrighty. I never thought I'd see that. That person was lucky. That person's very lucky. But, like I said, I'm going to request that we have a backup before it gets transported. I mean, you just don't normally get this sort of level of luck. The fact that I don't even actually have to solder anything. I shouldn't say that too loudly. The people who own this probably go, wait a second, what are we paying you hundreds of dollars for when all you did was just go... As they say, you are paying for the years, not for the minutes. Miles, how do you know I have a 1534, by the way? How do you know that? Have you been looking at my queue? Or did you just take a potluck guess and get lucky then? Because yes, I do have a 1534. Jim, how dare you say such thing? That's very insinuating of you. Alright. This is probably not going to work, but we'll try. Kind of a sad way to end the night there. Alright, unfortunately I've got to take the panel off away from everybody, which is not easy being a 1534. For those who don't know, the 1534 was a model, well you'll see it when I can show. You know what, I'm just gonna overlay the data that I can't show, and then at least you can witness the horror. I do have to get one more screw out. No, the 1534 was just a terrible, terrible Windows ME Vista A1425, that kind of type of, I can't believe this product made it to production type situation. Fair point, Jim, fair point. You baited me there. It's just doubling down and then getting it to work. You sound like Scotty from Star Trek. Captain, the engines are gonna blow. No, I can't do that accent. Most of the time my accents I end up sounding more like an Indian, as in Asian Indian, as opposed to American Indian. Okay, these are horrible, horrible, horrible machines. Look, someone's already been in here, because separating this from the trackpad is never that easy. And the other thing is, you can't flip this open normally. I mean, like, you can't just let this flip back. You have to very carefully set it back as far as you can, then unscrew it, and then you can release the whole thing. Okay, first thing we do, press the little button, even though it doesn't matter. Little button pressed. Actually, we should take it from that side. Anyway, by the way, the number of times I've had these machines turn up where someone has done this, it's all very sad. So the metal foam, the foily foam stuff, should always be facing up. If you reverse that cable, bad things happen. The only one good thing about this particular model is that if there was ever to be something that we could use to test CD3215s, these boards would do it, because they have only the one CD3215 in them. But you have to get the right model. Not all of the models have the CD3215. This one I'm pretty sure does. I'm pretty sure I can see it there. So I think this might be a 244. I think this has been opened, but I don't think it's been disassembled. There's always this. Yeah, it's definitely not being disassembled. They've put tape from the screen connector back here. It's like that metal mesh tape onto the chassis just for extra grounding. But trying to get it out is always a bit of a schlep. And you end up messing it up no matter what. Some people take it from the logic board, some people take it from the chassis. I'm a chassis taker, so like I will unpeel it from the chassis rather than the logic board. Also got to get the screen cable out of the way. There we go. Don't need your finger, do you, Paul? Oh. The other thing that's a little bit weird on these machines is that there is a thin layer of like an oily substance around the entire perimeter of the board, but it's not liquid damage. But the first time you encounter them, you think, hey, I found the liquid damage, and it's like, nope, it's not liquid damage. It's just some sort of, yeah, I don't know, it's like it comes out of the rubber gasket or something that they've got there. Anyway, I'll show you what I mean when we have a look under the microscope. But yeah, immediately you think, liquid damage! It's like, nope. It's some random YouTube cafe music, which means I'm probably going to get demonetized, even though the music is already being flogged from someone, I'm sure. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. See this stuff? You think it's liquid damage, but it's not. Okay, yeah, see, this has got the single CD3215. So it would make a potentially useful test bed. Barely. But of course the problem with CD3215s is that you've got to solder them back on, and okay, fine, if you get it to prove that it's working, you then have to take it off, reball it, and then put it onto another machine, and by then you may well have killed it. Now, this thing is a rebooter, so I'm suspecting the SSD controller's probably caved itself in, because most of the time you don't see much damage on these in terms of like liquid damage or anything like that. It almost always is the CPU capitulating or the SSD controller. Ectoplasm, yeah. So I'm just checking up on the log a little more here. 1658. Unit boot loops, taken enough power, cannot put into target disk mode or any other mode. Yeah, the fact that they can't get into target disk mode makes me think the SSD controller is the problem. So the only thing you can really do with these after you've checked just externally, like, you know, is there any blatant liquid damage anywhere? The only thing you can really do is you give them a 2-minute heat up and see if they come good. So all we're doing is just heating up the CPU, but it's only to 230 Celsius. You're not trying to reflow the CPU or anything like that. This is basically the same treatment that you give flip chip BGAs such as GPUs and things like that of earlier years. And it can yield you enough recovery to get your data off. Jim, the reason why if you flip the cable it does damage is, you are correct. There's only contacts on one side. But if you look at the clip or the connector that it goes into, they use, if you look, they use like connectors like this on the side. So they're like little forks. And so normally it would be like, say, connect only on the bottom. but when you flip it, there's still contact up the top, and that's how the damage occurs. Okay. Now, what's... Hey there, Paul, you got a 27-inch curve. Nice. What is that? 2560 1440, is it? Or some other resolution? Or did you get 4K? Right, now if you're going to do data recovery on these ones, you have to make sure you've got a proper good quality USB-C port expander. Like one of these things. Pay my car. Fortunately, it's yeah, it's not a problem. The reason why you want to use a port expander for this sort of thing is because you're not actually going to put this thing back into its chassis normally. You're going to just assemble it up like this. That's still pretty damn warm. So it's going to be like 5 minutes or so before I can power it back up, but I can at least start plugging things back in. Got that. That. We don't really need that. So yeah, you just have those two. Put the port expander in. And then from that, you can do your backups. You got your power coming into here, and you've got your option to do backup. And of course, that's what you need. You need mouse and keyboard. That's the main reason why you have the expander, is because that way... Damn it, that's not the right mouse and keyboard. Where did I put the ones I want? Oh, I guess we'll use that one. That way you don't stuff around with this or trying to deal with this whole ugly sandwich contraption. Looks like I need a pair of AAAs and a pair of AA's. Yeah, this is Apple's little experiment on a new style of logic boards for MacBooks, and it didn't really actually work out so well. To be fair, in this particular instance, I've got more blame laying with Intel, because most of the problems that have come up are because the CPU just isn't... It's just not coping. It crashes out, dies, fails, all that sort of stuff. So some people will say, of course, that it's still Apple's fault, they didn't give it enough cooling, but to be fair, it's a tiny CPU and there's enough thermal absorption mass all around that it should have been fine. It's, like I said, it's legitimately a very small machine, CPU. So I think this sort of, along with many other things, eventually are kind of what drove Apple to take the route they took. Okay, we are not switching into 20 volts for some reason. We're holding steady at 300. Yeah, that's not good. So most likely what's happened here is, yes, the CPU was on its way out, and us doing what we did basically made it go, I give up. It does happen like that, you know. You only get a limited number of successful sort of tries of trying to bring this thing back before they give up. However, what we'll do is we'll plug it in direct, see if we get any change on that voltage. It could be the adapter is... Oh, it was the adapter fucking around with me. Fantastic. That's unusual. Normally this works perfectly well, so I'm going to have to investigate that now. Let's see if we actually get a logo. There we go. Okay. Alright, we've got a logo. Let's see if it comes up. What it might do is actually just crash. If it crashes, then that'll be the SSD controller probably causing grief, in which case there's nothing we can really do. You've got more chance on this if the CPU is a dud, because you can just migrate the SSD and there's a couple of the ROM, things like that, across to a new board. But if the SSD controller is dead, then you're doomed. Well, the trouble is there's only one port on this machine. It might be that it might be getting upset for the fact that I have this power meter sitting in between. I'll be fine with displays if they, if we just generally have reliable display through USB-C or Thunderbolt, really. If it gets to that point where you just plug a USB-C cable into the display and that's it, then I'm happy with that. Now, I mean, there are a couple that can do that now, as far as I understand, but they do have to have the proper Thunderbolt 3 cables, which are fat bastards. They're not nice and thin like these ones. Hey, creature. Okay, what are you doing? Yeah, you see it's struggling here. That's not a good sign. So what might be best for me to do is to actually stop it from booting, see if I can put it into target disk mode, connect it up to another machine, pull the data off, and go from there. With these ones, they're very sensitive about what they connect to for target disk mode. You will find even if you have an iMac or something like that, and even if you have a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter or anything like that, it still won't work. I find with these you have to basically go Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 3. So you'll need something like 1706, 1707 machine to be able to make the connection, because that's stalling there too long. It's not doing me any favors, so I'm just going to terminate it now. There we go. Alright, well with that, we're 1 minute away from midnight, so I'm actually going to finish up for tonight. I'm going to go do some software development, because it's much needed. But it's been a good night. Like I said, those 2 successes without having to spill a single drop of flux. I think that's something that's quite commendable. I can pat myself on the shoulder. Let's see. Going to have the nerves cut in your shoulder as a new joint. Whoa, sorry, I'm just catching up on what Paul's saying. New joint has moved, and if they don't want to open it up again. Yeah, it's a pain. That's the trouble with surgery, isn't it? On things like highly mobile areas, it seems like you always end up with so many secondary issues that you wonder if it was worth it in the first place. Alright, okay, I've got up on chat. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time. I've still got a couple of computers in the queue, but I might take a break this weekend. We'll see how it goes. I do have a big customer machine down here, full desktop tower, but I need to try and find some parts for that. It's an old 8th gen 11, what is it, 1151 pin socket type thing. Getting a new main board for that thing is going to cost more than just simply wiping out the whole thing and doing it again. I hate that with a lot of these older machines, is that you find, okay, let's replace this or let's replace that, and by the end of it you find, you know what, it just would have been easier, cheaper and faster to just get a whole new machine. So I'm out of here. You all take care. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you on the next one. Till then, catch you later.